Hi everybody on Facebook. As promised, I am going live today to interview my client Sabina and give you a taste of what it feels like to work with me from, let's say, the horse's mouth. So I'm going to get Sabina in. And we will start. Let's just wait for her to show up. Hi, Lordana. Hi, Sandy. Hi, Helena. Welcome, everybody. I'm just adding Sabina now to the connection. Yay! Here she is. Hey, darling. How are you?
Work. Good. What about yourself?
Oh, I'm super. You look beautiful.
Thank you. I made a bit of an effort today. You look lovely as well.
Oh, thanks, dear. Okay, well, let me introduce Sabina to everybody. So you hear what a lovely and beautiful lady she is, and how much I enjoyed working with her. So Sabina is from Australia, from Perth, and she's an engineer. She's also doing a master's in sustainability, so that's a really interesting combination. She's a new mom to a 1-year-old son. And from what I've learned in working with her, she's really dedicated to just living her life fully and learning and growing and expanding. And as much as I've been helping her, I have to say her inspiration and her heart has always been touching me throughout this program. So,
Oh, thanks.
yes, I'm a little bit teary-eyed when I say that. Um, and so, what's interesting about Sabina and a lot of my other clients is their international background. For example, Sabina is living in Perth in Australia, but her family is quite mixed and multicultural. Her mom is, hey Pamela, welcome. Her mom is Hungarian and her dad is Bangladeshi. And she's
Yep.
married to a South African, so she's like the universe in one. Um, really a pleasure to have you today. Thank you for setting the time to talk with us and to just share your experience and for your patience in this process of Mercury retrograde, where we tried this a couple of times and it took some effort from both of our sides. So, all right, welcome, Sabina. I'm really happy to see you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, beautiful. And we have Ursula and Sarah. Oh, quite a lot of people joining. Thank you, everybody, for joining. So let's get started. I have just a few questions for Sabina, and then we have a little reversal of roles at the end. And this is something I came up with, which I really wanted Sabina, even in the process of creating this interview, to be really involved and to see the questions that I would ask her and to actually, be a participant, not just an interviewee. And this is the work and the relationships that I like to have with people are very equal based. So at the end, she will also ask me a few questions which she feels you might guys want to know about me. So it's going to be a double whammy. All right. So cool. So good to see you, Loredana. All right, so let's start. So the first question is, I think it's interesting why people get into coaching and personal development. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what your journey is in that area and why you are drawn to these fields?
Yeah. So I first started seriously looking at my own development when I was in my mid-20s and I was really unhappy with what type of person I was becoming. I was really not behaving congruent to my values. And I put myself in a few situations which at the time you don't realize what effects it can have,
Yeah.
and the people I surround myself with. And so I was just very unhappy with myself and my life, and I needed to do something to change. And so originally I've always loved reading, so I've read different books, but I went to a psychologist and I didn't feel that it was very effective. I went to actually a few psychologists,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't gain the type of relationship or the insight that I needed to feel at peace.
Sure.
And so that's when I led to coaching, and I had a different coach to yourself that helped create some insights. And then saw you, and you provided something different to my other coach. And so yeah, it was more about finding what was important to me that led me to coaching.
Yeah, and I think what the really key thing, which I find really resonates with me, is the fact that you say that you were not congruent with your internal values. And I've, come to know you very well, and I really resonate with your values of integrity and learning and equality and love. These are all beautiful values, and sometimes, the way we grow up or the circumstances we find ourselves don't allow for the full blossoming of these values. So sometimes we have to go and clean up the background so that who you are can really come through. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So how did you find me, and what prompted you to work with me?
So I saw your work on the Desire Map on Facebook.
Yeah.
I liked one of your posts that you wrote, and then you reached out to me and just added me on Facebook. And so I just thought, normally I don't actually accept people I don't know, but I thought, why not? I really liked what you wrote. And then from then onwards, I started to keep reading all your posts that you wrote, and what you wrote about were more emotional things, and I really resonated with what you wrote. Actually, nearly every post you write ends up resonating with me, and it's quite funny and uncanny that quite often it's about something I'm feeling around the same time, so it hit home a lot. And so because you made me think of things in a different perspective, and generally you give it in a more loving way, that made me want to work with you, because that's what I was looking for was a compassionate approach in coaching. And because you were embodying what you were writing about, I wanted to try working with you.
That's really amazing, and thank you for saying all of that. And I think it's really key for people to do exactly what you did, not necessarily work with me, but really resonate deeply with whoever they are interested in. Don't just jump in because somebody wrote something spectacular once, or something really dramatic. You have to like the person, and you have to really resonate with what they write and who they really are to benefit actually from this synergy when you're working together. So that's really interesting that you mentioned that. And what were your struggles? What were your basic challenges when you decided, like, yes, I want to work with Dunya on these specific things?
There was a few things. So actually, there's always going to be a few things that you always want to work on, because you can always make life better. But at that time, I was really struggling probably most with two things, and that was self-love, because I just had a new baby and trying to find time for myself. And when your life changed, that's a big shift in your life, how to be able to give yourself what you still need.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really finding that balance.
Yeah.
And then because I became a part-time worker, my money situation changed as well. And then that was also something that I at that time I was looking at a lot. And I really quite liked that you had a couple of posts about money, and it created quite a lot of reactions from the people that were reading your comments and your posts. But I agreed with what you were writing with. And I really liked that you wrote about something that most people find difficult to talk about, because when I've tried to explore that topic, there's not many people who are open with it. So I
You,
like that you're willing to do something against the grain.
do you want to say what it was? Because I don't remember what post you're referring to. Like, what was I saying that was so different or controversial?
Um,
You can remember.
I I think I just remember more so a person attacked what you're writing about.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And you just wrote back very compassionately. And other people did try to defend what you wrote, myself included. And I liked your approach that you said that they're allowed to feel the way that they are, and that that their journey has led them to that. Not that you agree with what they were posting and you thought that they still needed work to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I really like that you saw that people are in different places, and that's quite respectful. There's not just one way of doing things, and understanding that people are in different parts of their journey. Um, and I think that as well made a big difference for me, because often I've found people just say that their way is the only right way.
Yeah.
And what I like with you is that you help people find their way.
Yeah.
And that's really important because everyone's got their own story and you help unlock that story. So that's what I like.
That's really, I mean, thank you for saying that, because sometimes I miss words in explaining what I'm facilitating for people. And that's really true. I think because of my own experience in coaching in general, in therapy and other areas, I have seen a lot of sort of autocratic behavior by people who are supposedly there to open you up to yourself, and you see that they are really pushing you to do it really their way. Um, and because I personally have experienced a lot of coercion in my own upbringing, I'm really against it. And I will say no, even if they are followed by millions. I would say I dislike maybe some of the major coaching figures because of their way of approaching, which is a bit overly intense for me and a bit sometimes crossing the line of respect for the other person and their, exactly as you say, their journey. So beautiful. Thank you for mentioning that. I really appreciate it. All right. So what was it that you wanted to achieve in our 3-month program? Like, what were kind of the goals that you were looking for?
I wanted to work on self-love. So that was a big one. I wanted to get more clarity around my work environment,
Mm-hmm.
um, because, yeah, I wasn't sure if my direction was going the way that I wanted to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my money situation as well, as we touched on,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and yeah, with my career. So they were probably the main. I know we wrote down a lot more that we focused on, but I quite liked that in our sessions we ended up working on what was happening in my life at the time. So it was great because when we had a session, it was related to something that was happening in my life that day,
Yeah.
that bothered me, or the week that bothered me, whatever was on my mind. And sometimes it wasn't exactly what I had wrote that I wanted to focus on, but it helped shift the things that I was concerned about, and that I wanted to work on. And I really like that because we worked a lot on how I was feeling at work, and me not being able to speak up. So it's funny that I am talking right now to everyone. So clearly
And
it's
beautifully,
worked.
I can add.
Um, but yeah, so then those were the main things and after each session, I really felt a sense of peace and a bit more understanding about what was happening to me and why I've acted some ways.
Yeah, sure. I'm just thinking about that also there was a space where we also embraced some of the beliefs about your self-image and your body, which I think is important that women know that we
Oh,
also, can address. that, you know, that aspect of how women feel, because it's some of the beliefs there are just so ludicrous and have nothing to do with how we really feel towards ourselves. But because of certain situations, again, and experiences, we adopt beliefs that are not that great for us. And I also remember that you wanted better relationships within your family, within your nuclear family and your extended family. Because I relate to that a lot, and a lot of other clients I work with, because they are either first or second generation immigrants, or expats. However, there was a huge, actually, article in The Guardian, who is called an expat and who is called an immigrant. And I really appreciated it, because it was, of course, obviously white people are expats and everybody else is an immigrant. And so it was like a really deep article of like, okay, let's see what words we use for, you know, like, you know, for different people. So what I wanted to say is that a lot of people experience the push and pull, having families in different areas of the world and trying to keep the communication and the love and the contact. So I think that's something that we worked on as well, and that was very important to you. And I really resonated with that, because one of your biggest values is family, and but family in like a really core loving way, like as really like your basis and foundation for life. So I'm really proud that you actually worked on these things now, and you're having a child now, and you'll have other babies later, and they really will benefit from this like grounding and centeredness that we've worked on creating within you. I think that's really beautiful.
And I wanted to say, with that, it's really not even just with my nuclear family, it's helped me with my extended family. So
Yeah.
when we've worked on things, like one session I came in and I was just not myself, and I couldn't shake it off, and Dunya could see through it. And we worked on from that session, even though I wasn't my most pleasant, Dunya was there for me, and she could hold a space safe for me, which I really appreciated, because afterwards it really helped me get a better relationship with my mother and my sister, even though I have a good relationship with my with them both actually. But Dunya helped me see that I was not having safe boundaries with my family in that particular instance. And that really shifted things a lot for me. Even just the other day, my sister was, you know, in a bit of conflict with my dad, and I was able to just stay out of it. And I was lovingly supporting both of them. But I just didn't take on their issues. And I think that is a big like difference in how I've behaved. I think most people, well, probably people that follow your work, love their family and they want to be a better person for their family, but you need to be the best version of yourself to help your family. And then it's sometimes you think you're doing the right thing to help your family, but actually it's not. So before I was trying to help coming from a good place, but my results were not the best for my family. Now, like with this, I realized I don't have to be that way, and I can pull back, and it's actually been more positive for my family because I've let them be who they need to be, and I can help support them. And, you know, vice versa, it's happening to me as well from my family. So that's part of how you've helped me shift some of this energy with my own family, right, my extended family, rather than just my nuclear family.
Really, I'm really happy to hear that, especially that, you know, you're having these experiences since Sabina and I finished the coaching in May or June, and we've had a couple of follow-up sessions in between, but we haven't worked together for last 3 months, and you're still having the ripple effects of what the work we've done and the energy that we've changed. And I think the specific situation you're talking about was dealing with anger, and that's something that people, I mean, I had issues with it, and I had to learn how to work with anger and how to recognize anger in other people and how to allow space for anger to come and not reject people, and also mention that it's there, because people sometimes just tiptoe around anger. They're just scared of, you know, dealing with anger in any shape or form. So I think it was really a good thing that this, you know, for me it felt really wonderful that you felt safe enough to be your not so great self, because that's the whole point,
Yeah.
to allow this, you know, like, not parts of us that we don't like to show up and to still be embraced and not rejected. That's when the change happens. Because we have these experiences probably before where we actually expressed anger, and people, families were like, you know, go to your room, or, you know, do something to put you away and your energy away. And so you learn that that's where you should keep this energy, you know, in a locked little box. And that's not good, because it doesn't allow the energy to flow through your body, and you lose a lot of your energy. You become weaker in other areas of your life because you're not using yourself fully. So I'm really glad we touched on that area, and super cool that you just stayed out, played the very, you know, balancing and centered person, which is sometimes so much more helpful to the people who are actually having a disagreement. Cool.
Definitely, especially when it's in your family.
Exactly. And that's the hardest. So I applaud you sincerely. I mean, you know, I catch myself sometimes, you know, in family relations, even though I've worked a lot on myself and I coach others, you know, we're not perfect, and we're not, you know, magical. So there are situations that will still trigger us enough, but we know what to do. That's the key. All right. So since I created this signature technique, Soft Embodied Healing, and I use it, you know, almost in every session with my clients. Do you want to tell me how you feel? How did you feel using this technique? How did you feel going through this process?
I felt safe. I was in a very, very safe place,
Hmm.
which was important for me. And I know that's your word and you provide it. Um, I I think safety was the biggest thing because you're being vulnerable. Like you go to the core wound and or as far back as you can find it. And you don't I often never realized that something that was hurting me from my inner child from a young age is what's actually triggering my behavior right now. There's no way I could have spotted that difference. And I'm quite analytical. I do my research, I try to find my trends. Um, and when I spot something, I'll change it. Um, but a lot of these things are just subconscious beliefs or things that are just so ingrained because you've made yourself believe it from when you were a child and you've not spoken to your child for a long time. So that's what I like that you made me reconnect to my inner child and talk to her and understand her. And so now I am able to be more gentle because I listen to her.
That's beautiful. I'm so touched you say this, and I'm really excited that you mentioned something which I think is key, and that's that you and we all try first, you know, to solve it with our brains. You know, that's how we're brought up. We're not really taught, and this is kind of part of my mission, which I would like, you know, sort of emotional education to be part of schooling and part of growing up, you know, so that you learn how to process emotions, because I think maybe 50 to 70% of my work is teaching people how to process difficult emotions, because our civilization is not really on a high level when it comes to that. We're still kind of fight or flight syndrome. Those are like the options that we have. So I'm really glad you mentioned that, because it's key to know in these situations when we create those mental circles, or we're on a hamster wheel kind of going around, to drop that and to maybe get help from somebody who can hold space so you can go to your emotions. Because, and as you said, I don't know what wound is going to come up. You know, it's really a surprising act for all of us. I have the technique that leads us there, but when we start, I won't know and say, okay, this is exactly what we're going to work on. We go through this emotional process where I hear and I see and I perceive where the pain is, and I follow that to the core. And then we find that situation through your amazing participation. So I have to say, for whoever is interested or wanting to work with me, you need to be emotionally open. Yes, I can help to a point, but Sabina was really trusting and emotionally open to actually just um, be vulnerable, you know? And that's, I think, the key to any transformation is accepting that you can be vulnerable. And thank you for being that kind of person, because I really get inspired by people who are interested to grow and to move forward and to change this planet. Because by being this centered person in your family, extended family's argument, you're changing the world, you know. And in the next situation at work, when that happens, you are changing the world. We don't need to be, you know, on the barricades with revolutions anymore to change the world. Like, the inner work is the way you change the world. So thank you for mentioning that. How would you explain this work to somebody who has never done it, the work that we do?
It's very difficult until you experience it. I don't think words can really do it justice. Because I think the thing is, it's more the transformation that I felt that was more what you feel. So, you know, what you do is you talk to someone about what they're feeling about a certain issue. And when you're talking to that person about that feeling, you ask what the physical symptoms are and where you can feel whatever you're feeling, what energy is located in whatever part of your body.
Mm-hmm.
And then with each, like, I've had sometimes some issues, I've had places in several locations, and they were different feelings about the same topic. So I had several emotions that came up that I didn't resolve, and you helped me talk to each feeling to understand what lesson I'm meant to learn from that feeling. And by understanding what it's trying to tell me, you help me release that energy to be like, thank you for letting me know what you needed, and, you know, do it with gratitude, and that you've learnt your lesson, and you talk to your inner child about what it needs to hear. And to the other people that you feel that you missed out on what words you might have said in that moment. And it gives you that second chance to say, this is what I would have liked to say if I had the words when I was a child at that instance, or when you're an adult, when when you weren't able to speak up. And because you're able to defend yourself, I guess, in some ways, and get clarity and feel that your voice got heard, you're able to let it go. Well, I was able to let it go. And then I got peace after each time because I was able to say what I needed to say. And often it's just being able to speak up for yourself that helps you understand what you need to understand. And you're no longer emotionally involved in that situation because you've done what you needed to do.
I'll just put a period on that. It couldn't have been explained better. Okay, so what were the benefits that you received besides feeling peaceful and relieved from the tension that you carried? What were, like, the practical things in your relationships at work, in your vision of how you want to live your life?
I'm much happier with the boundaries that I'm setting.
Okay.
That was a big one for me, realizing what's appropriate, what's not appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And that really made me learn a lot about myself, that sometimes I've let my boundaries get trespassed,
Yeah,
or I've trespassed other people's boundaries.
sure.
Um, uh, Other benefits I've got is um, just a lot more happiness and joy. I'm able to be more present when I'm with my family, or with my friends, actually, or anyone, because I've got a lot more clarity, less burden on me because I understand myself more. And from what I do, what I've learned about myself, I'm able to share it with others. So if my friends have, something similar, I'm able to probably help them better now. But that's, for me, is important, to try to help others as well. Uh, the main thing is peace. I can't stress enough, when you're not feeling well about yourself, um, and that you.
Did we lose Sabina? Ah, let's see what's going on. Let me um, just continue without her and then see if she shows up. That was unprepared, or we're not planning for this to happen. So I think she'll come back. So I think one thing that I can say, that Sabina was saying about being at peace, I wanna connect to that. Is that, my coaching program is called Manifest Your Feminine Dream Life, and to be really centered in your feminine is to be at peace. And this is really key when you are trying to do anything in your life, that you are doing this from a space of peace. So that, hold on, Sabina's writing. Let me just check if she can join again. And to really, decide what your desires are, and decide where you want to go in life from a space of peace. And a lot of people create their desires from a space of panic. And here's Sabina, so I'm going to add her again. A lot of people do things from a space of panic and past pain. And so
Sorry
when
about
they
that.
act, no worries, I'm just explaining to people why feeling of peace is important for a feminine dream life. And I was saying that, you know, when you create your desires, your wants from a space of panic or past pain or some burdens, so when you're trying to escape something, and that's what you're moving away from something instead of just being centered and moving towards your own desires. That's the difference between what you are saying. It could sound like a small thing. I feel at peace now, but the ripple effect of being centered and at peace affects every aspect of your feminine life. Like, it affects every decision you make. It affects the energy that you project in your family. I remember one beautiful thing, I hope you don't mind, I'll share it, is that you said that you started, instead of reading at night, spending more time with your husband, and he was rubbing your feet more. And I think that's beautiful, like, that's the part, again, a small change in a daily activity, which creates, contact, context, connection, love. And your next day is going to be totally different than if you spent it with the book. Obviously, you love to read, so it might not be every evening, but it's important that you noticed what pleases your feminine heart more. This is key, and I love that you mentioned that. So now that we're back, was there anything else that changed in your life? Your family relations, how you deal with some situations at work, stuff like that?
So at work, I've been more able to voice what I need. So that I think that was a big part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, sometime I came back to work part time after taking maternity leave, so my situation had changed at work. Um, so then it was hard to readjust. I was doing another job for part of my time, and so it was
Yeah,
learning how to manage in a different team as well as my own team.
yeah,
And so as you and I worked on, I unusually did not expect it, but I felt uncomfortable in the other team because I wasn't able to speak up and fully be who I wanted to be.
yeah.
And you helped me realize, why I wasn't speaking up and what I needed to do to feel better. So, and that really made a difference in my everyday job. So it made a big difference just coming to work.
Excellent. Awesome. And we also worked a little bit on your body image and your body, how you treat your body and how you see yourself. Do you want to say something about that? What's changed for you in that area? Because I think a lot of women will relate to that.
Okay, that was a big one for me actually.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of insecurities about my appearance since I was a child, and
And
yeah,
look how beautiful. I just want to
oh,
point
thank
out.
you.
So
Um,
it's not really. I just want to say, no matter if even people tell you you're really beautiful, it's what's inside that really counts. If you're having some bad feelings, that's how you're going to come out. Sorry, I
yeah,
didn't mean to.
that's okay. And that's why actually at that time I wasn't even making much effort with myself when I started working with you. And I think that that's a consequence of our work that I'm able to give myself more time and love to myself.
Yeah,
Sorry, you paused. Yeah, okay. Um, yeah,
don't worry.
that was a big one for me because I was really not happy in my skin and not happy with how I was looking. Um,
Sorry, just something. If you're holding your phone, oh, we lost you. So let me add you again. Must be something with the connection there that's happening. Um, we were having some trouble before, technically, for some reason. So I added you back.
that's okay.
So you just dropped.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so it was a big thing about loving myself. And from our work, I've been able to, as you say, I made more effort with myself. Um, so that was, and at work, I try to give myself more time because that was a feminine part of myself that I needed to feel good about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that it wasn't vanity because I was doing it for myself and I wasn't being superficial. And though they were big shifts because I'd been holding on
Yeah,
story and told that as, a child. Um, yeah, so it's that I don't do it every day, to be honest. I just don't have time. But if I had enough time every day, now I would do it.
sure. And I remember, especially regarding how you felt about your body, that you were pushing yourself to do things that weren't really feeling good. Like, to go to the gym, I don't know, 4 to 5 times a week, to be on a very strict diet, and I appreciate anybody who decides to do that, but not from a space of pushing themselves. If they are enjoying that, more power to you. But Sabina wasn't enjoying it. And I remember at some point she switched to dance because she just said, okay, so this gym thing is not lighting me up and I'm going to Zumba now. And I really think, again, these little small things that we change in our lives because we look into how we feel, so then um, her perception of herself changed because she made choices that were congruent with her. And I really applaud you for that.
And I set unrealistic expectations that I was just going to fail. And I think that was another thing that you and I worked on, that the things that I wanted to do were just not realistic. I was setting myself up to fail. And I think
Yeah.
by becoming more compassionate to myself, I made choices that I didn't need to constantly feel like a failure.
Yes, and I think that's something again adopted from, parental and ancestral baggage that we all as children, take on. And we take on challenges of our parents, which are really not ours. So when we find a way to kind of return these challenges back to whoever, gave it to us and just be open to who we are, we show up differently in life. And I think that what you did is just a testament to, when you're courageous to go for what your heart wants, you will get what you need.
Definitely. Just takes work.
Yes, it does take work, definitely. This doesn't happen in one day, but it does take, I think it takes work, but from a space again of not like homework, but something you want to do so you could feel better. And who doesn't want to feel better? I think that's the goal of any coaching, is choosing to do something that makes you feel better.
Yeah. When I meant work, I meant action. Even when you realize things, you have to act on what you need to do.
Sure. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, and so my last question will be for you. What did you enjoy most in our 3-month program?
I enjoyed your lovely personality. So it was really nice to feel safe and comfortable. Um, and to, I could be every part of me when we coached. There wasn't any even when I held back parts, it came out, and you still embraced me, and that was a big thing for me because in my past, when I've shown the not pleasant sides of my personality, I would feel rejected afterwards.
Sure.
And that didn't happen with you, so that made me trust you more because then I could be even more authentic. Um, Everyone always likes people when they're polite and friendly and nice, but it's a different thing when you can really be who you are and still do it with respect. And people can accept you for who you are because I think that's what everyone really wants, to be accepted for what their inside is. And you showed me that it's possible with others other than the people that I trust the most. So it was great.
Oh, I'm so happy, and thank you for that lovely compliment, because I just sending it back to you. Enjoyed working every minute with you. Um, and I also want to really commend you because I realized, I knew this, but now that I kind of think back, is that you started coaching with me when your child was 6 months old. Like you were really a new mom, and you were going to school, you were, working part-time, you were a mom, and you found time for something that was important for you. So really great congratulations on being able to manage all of that. You are really a powerhouse in my mind.
Thank you. I think the thing is that when it's important for you, you'll make it happen. And for me, mental peace is a big, it's something really important for me. So that's why I could find the time for it. It's a lot easier for me to find an hour with you than an hour at the gym or exercise.
Yes, I'm less strenuous than the gym. That's a really good way to promote myself. You don't have to go to the gym, just do coaching with me. All right, beautiful. Thank you for so much for your candor and for your eloquence in speaking about this. And if you want to shoot your questions to me now, I'll switch the energetic space, and you can ask me a couple of questions, and then we'll close for today for this interview.
So my first question was, what led you to become a coach?
Uh, okay. I think I was a coach or maybe some kind of counselor or therapist all my life without really knowing it. And this definitely comes partly from some negative experiences in my upbringing. I had quite narcissistic parents, and I had to grow up quickly and be an adult, and try to manage really adult situations early on. So even though, that didn't allow me to, let's say, be as playful and have as much fun as a child, it also gave me skills that, I used later in life. Um, I also did a lot of therapy, just like you, trying to figure out some things in my life. And I did many kinds of therapies. Since I'm an Aquarius, I try a lot of different therapeutic modalities, from like body to, dance, to speech therapy, to, group, all kinds of group therapies. And I have to say that although the majority of them provided momentary relief, I wasn't able to see sustainable change in my life. So coaching came just as like a new interest, let's say 4 or 5 years ago. And I started learning about it, and I joined a coaching academy, and I started learning about the bad and the good sides of coaching, because as in any area of life, you're going to be, shown the shadow and the light side of whatever you're doing. But the light side was that I found some aspects of how to go through pain in a different way than any therapy was showing me before. And um, combining the questioning that the coaching does, which I feel goes back to philosophy and to the Greeks, to Socrates, who was always trying to find out what is the truth, and Nietzsche, who was saying, truth will set you free. So for me, it was about using the coaching modalities of asking questions, um, mirrored together with some therapeutic, modalities that get to the emotional core. So I think I couldn't stop myself. I think it's really in my heart to, I had to heal myself, and I'm still doing that. And I really help other women heal themselves so they can be the best who they are. And that's really something for me, that's my mission, especially in the area of validating emotions, because that's a very feminine aspect in life, and we don't really value it much. And there's only few spaces where it is allowed, in coaching, in therapy, in really close relationships. And I'm really kind of dedicated to bringing emotions into public space, because I feel we would all benefit from that.
So you kind of touched on my second question was, how did you learn your soft embodied technique?
Okay, all right. So I didn't learn it. I basically organically created it. I think when I started doing practice coaching sessions in this academy that I was a part of, and we would do coaching with each other, with people who were also in the academy. Um, and we had some training on these questions, how to, like very coaching questions, kind of like what your goals are. Um, Give me how you feel from 1 to 10. If you want to do something, what little steps you can make, and some of that is helpful. And maybe it's really helpful to a lot of people. But for me, it was a little bit lacking depth. So when I was doing these coaching, I would just start to go into the emotional part really naturally. I mean, and I was, as I say, I was really like a coach to all my friends and family and everybody before. So I was using it really naturally and really organically, some of the parts of therapeutic modalities, like speaking to your emotions, is a bit of a Gestalt therapy switch. So in Gestalt therapy, you can put your mom in a chair and, tell her how you feel. So I just felt like, okay, I want to invite the body in the coaching practice, because we are women and we really need to live outside of our heads. We want to live in our body as well. So, and all the emotions show up in the body. So why not have a conversation with them and really hear why they're there? So it was really an organic process, and I saw breakthroughs with everybody every time. And this is really interesting for me, is that it's not like, okay, this coaching session is going to be more powerful than this one. For me, everyone is powerful because this technique just works. And I'm even thinking now to try to, structure it and maybe teach it to others, because I think it's really helpful. It really helps to have a breakthrough in each session of a challenge or an issue that you have. You might not be able to move forward instantly, making some magical changes, but you will instantly feel better. And that's a huge shift in energy. And then a week later, you might be ready to make an action, So yeah, that's how it came to me.
So that ties on with my third question was, do you
I
feel your
wasn't planning
coaching?
it.
Do you feel your coaching is effective for most of your clients? If so, why? And for clients that it didn't work for, why was that?
Yeah, I think this is a really great question. So the technique works for everybody, and I've had breakthroughs with everybody. Whether people continue to use what came up is really dependent on the person's readiness, or even maybe their character type. There are people who are sometimes really scared of emotions. So if you've never worked on yourself, you came to me kind of prepared already. You worked with therapists. You knew what emotions were. It wasn't strange for you when I say, okay, let's talk to your anger. And for somebody who hasn't done that before, it might be really weird. They go for it. We have a breakthrough, but it's not something that they are familiar with. And it feels weird to them. So I think it's just the people that maybe don't resonate longer term with me are people who are not ready for deep emotional work. Some people like more analytical approaches, more goal-oriented stuff, and I appreciate that. So I think it works for people who are emotional and sensitive and value emotions and can get the best out of them.
Right. And how do you wish to help influence the world? So your mission in the world, so people can see what you're about.
Yeah, so I think I mentioned that in the first question, but it is to bring emotions in the forefront of everything in life. And since I was in the corporate world for almost 20 years as a branding and marketing manager prior to being a coach, I remember how often I couldn't share my emotions, or how other people couldn't share emotions, and how generally corporate is not really open to emotional self-expression, and workplaces in general. And I have seen some change happen recently where with Brene Brown's work on courage and authenticity and even shame, that emotions are finding their way to the boardrooms, and people are being aware of how being authentic can mean being more productive in that company. And so things are opening up there. That's one area where I would like to have impact through my clients, obviously. And the second one is to be able to I don't know how to word this, but somehow create a space for emotions in the educational system. I would really like to have an emotional class, for kids to have an emotional class where they do all sorts of play and group exercises, and learning how to deal with other people and conflict, and how to express their emotions. I think that would be beautiful. So those are like long-term goals, and I haven't really spread my wings that far, but that would be kind of the vision of the work that I'm doing. But maybe short term would be to really help as many women as I can to be themselves, not to run away from themselves, not to think that what they are is not good enough or worthy enough, or that, you know, other things are more important than them. I really want women to put themselves first, because when they do that, they teach their kids and their family and everybody else to do the same.
Great. Well, you helped me with it, so.
Yay. Wonderful. All right. Well, I think I'll let Sabina go. Thank you so much for this interview today. I'm going to be talking just a couple of minutes about the current offer that I have going. And I don't want to take Sabina's time. So Sabina, lovely, lovely, and so grateful for the time that you've dedicated to us.
You're welcome. Enjoy your, well, Friday. Thanks everyone for watching.